recruit our director on an L1 visa for marketing. We will set up a subsidiary, but we will need to hire additional employees in the US. Is there a way to do this?
Well, if they
do not need to hire.
The answer is an L1A for the director. If you're not hiring anyone else, there's no more answer to the question. L1A for the director.
No, what you said was to continue the L1 beyond year one. You would need to demonstrate business in the US, you would need to hire local employees there. We would not normally need to hire employees there.
Okay.
So how do we sustain the L1 without doing that?
All right. No, good question. You either adjust your needs and hire some employees, or alternatively, you write up a very unique argument, which is going to have a difficult time winning without employees. That this person, let me ask you, would you be operating through independent contractors, or you just need the one person in the U.S.?
We just need the one person because the deliveries are done out of India. So we would essentially contract with our U.S. clients in the Indian company.
All right. You're going to have a problem getting an L1 extended beyond the first year because the U.S. CIS is incapable of thinking outside the box. You have a unique situation. You have a reason why you don't need employees. It's logical to me, but they don't understand the real needs of business. So that's going to be difficult. Okay.
These are scenarios that need to be individually analyzed. Explore alternate options. Explore options within L1 on structuring it from day one. They are not the typical scenario where you would want to think of filing it after the fact. You would think of it before, well in advance, and also understand, possibly realize what may be done. But yes, the industry or the type of assignment in our times necessitates having fewer employees. For entrepreneurs hoping to start a business but not planning to actually invest in the US, can they apply for a B1 visa to attend meetings?
Absolutely. The B1 is to attend meetings in connection with whatever business matters you have. Creating a new company, meeting with colleagues, clients looking for customers, that sort of thing. Sure.
How would a H-3 visa help an individual travel to the US? Would it be more stronger than a B1? If there is a B1, there's a B1 in lieu of H3, and there is an H3. So it's the scenario that has to determine which of these options would ideally work for you. We've done all of them, but in different scenarios, and also based on where your company is based, determines what may work best. Each consulate is different, and we have noticed different consulates have different views on them. So they all can be used, but there's, again, understanding the scenario is what determines the ideal visa category. Perhaps Mr. Jai can expand.
I'll just expand by saying B1 in lieu of anything is getting much more difficult to get, and as a practical matter, doesn't exist, and is going to be phased out of the books very shortly. So, I would never advise it as a primary strategy for anybody.
Setting up a new business venture and new opportunities of expanding the business in the US. When we talk to a client, we look at various levels at which a client wishes to enter. The simple entry is you don't even visit a company, possibly to a trade show or, through a sales agent and get the business done. Well, if you pass that stage, then possibly you hire a salesperson, and get the business, developed. Again, if you are beyond that, then we help establish a company, the banking, and then you send your own employee from India office who knows your business, who knows your product, your service, and that person can build a business. So based on your industry, where you are today, and where you want to be in the US, we always look at what's the simplest structure we can build for you, and what would help you achieve your goal of building your business, building your plans. So any of these scenarios can be done in combination of these things.
This question is, the current existing employer apply on filing a petition for H1 visa for existing employer?
Can you expand on that, please?
Likewise, we have a counterpart or subsidiary company in the United States, and they file a petition, annual petition for our colleagues here in India. Can they opt for H1 as a category? That's the question.
I'm afraid the term counterpart is loosely used. But the bottom line is, for H1 purposes, it's immaterial. So the company in the US may hire a foreign national in India on their payroll, and they may employ the Indian national, and they have to pay the prevailing rate to the Indian national. And that has no bearing on the relationship with the Indian entity, or with any Indian entity. Okay, there was a question here.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a couple of questions actually.
Okay.
One question is my company applied for trademark last year March, and we have received the approval, and we want to know how soon we should start for appointing a distributor and importer in US so that we can trade and our trademark actually gets live and we receive the certification sooner. Because what I understand in the process is you apply for us, until unless you appoint someone and start trading, you won't really get the trademark certification. Am I right in understanding?
Yes, in a way. What we can do is, if you give us what you have received, I suppose you got it from USPTO?
Yeah.
Okay. What we generally like to do is we want to run it by our team. Okay. Get back to you on what's coming next or what needs to be coming next. Okay. Yeah. Because a lot of times when it comes to specifics, we like to look at documents on any matter.
What is the typical duration that we actually should be start trading? What I ordered was 6 months.
Well, the first thing is let's take a look at the document. Okay. And when we do, we are able to quickly come back and tell you what you want to be doing and when.
Okay. And second question is, I'm actually kind of part British national. I relocated from UK. I have indefinite status. Okay. If my company wants to send me to US, I actually left my job in UK and came back to India. Okay. I'm 6 months back in here in India. I'm still on obviously citizen status. If I apply for US business visa or H1B visa, would it be easier for me, or it's kind of a hard challenge?
Do you hold Indian passport? Is it
I'm still on Indian passport.
Right. You're only maintaining the resident status in UK because of whatever past. And you're not holding British passport, which means you only have one passport, and when you go to the consulate, that's how you're going to be judged by.
But I'm not having documentation as far as any counterpart is concerned because I wasn't there.
Well, regarding your employment?
Yeah, my income and everything.
That's all right. I mean, are proving your background through sources where you have worked or lived. However, for citizenship purposes, you are holding Indian passport. They're two different. Items. You don't want to mix them up. The reason I said if you had a British passport, we would have added more possibilities or more scenarios. And that we didn't, just because it's based on the passport. Yeah. Whereas your evidence is based on where you lived and where you worked.
So if a British couple was allowed to work in the US? Or do they require, again, a visa or something?
Yeah, everyone requires a work visa.
Similar as probably Indian marriages?
Around the world, if you enter the US, all work visas require authorization. Okay. Yeah, you had a question there, please.
I represent Educational Learning Solutions. We do e-learning, mobile learning, target learning work, and have now 2 clients in the US. So we want to set up our sales and marketing arm. Development center is based out of India. So what would be the best entity we can form in the US? Initially, it's going to be the sales and marketing team, which will start. And which is there a particular geography which we need to focus on?
Very common question. But it would be inappropriate to pick something based on what you have just said. What we generally like to do, a very common question, and I'm sure many in the audience have a similar question, regardless of the industry and the size of the company. What we generally like to do is we ask a series of questions saying, what is your business? Where would you like to go? Where are your clients? Do you have any clients? If you relocate, where would you live? Is it really necessary to do in Delaware or Nevada? Or should you do to the state you go? What's your current sales turnover? And how many employees are you sending? When will you be sending? How many you have in the first year? So when you give answers to a series of questions, then we are able to quickly say, in our opinion, based on where you will be 3 years from today, this is what we recommend today. Because we're not asking those questions because what you will do on day one. We're asking the questions because we want to see where you are heading in 3 years, in 4 years. Because 2 years later, if you still come back and ask us to do something different, something more, believe me, if we pull up a file, we would have the idea, or we would have the thought we had on the day when we first started working with you. So generally, if you give us 5-10 minutes, we're able to do that analysis and tell you in your scenario, this is what we believe would best work. Okay? So that's really important. Otherwise, what we tell could be taken as an advice by everyone, and it won't benefit majority of them when we give a generic answer. We rather say something after we talk to you for 5-10 minutes.
I would like to just know, what is the cap limit for H1 this year? And the second part is, how soon it was exhausted last year, so we can do some planning for this year.
Excellent. The first thing I will do when we get back to the office tomorrow is start the plan. Seriously. Last year, I suppose they lasted till June 7th or so?
This past year, 2012, we started filing April 1st. They ran out of the 20,000 advanced degree H-1Bs on June 8th, and they ran out of the 65,000 regular H-1Bs on June 11th. Now, when they run out is a function of the demand for hiring, the demand for employment in the U.S., which is a function of the economy. Depending on who you talk to, the U.S. economy is either in really good shape or in really bad shape. Okay. However, last year, 2012, was a dramatic increase over 2011. In 2011, I think the H-1Bs ran out in In fact, I know they ran out in November. This past year, they ran out in June. As hiring increases, as the economy improves, they're going to run out closer and closer to April 1st. How soon? Well, I have a crystal ball, but it's been in the shop for the last 30 years and it doesn't work, so I can't predict the future. But just my sense tells me that the economy is improving, which means hiring is going to be more in demand, and which means that, and we've been 9 months without H1, 10 months without H1Bs, so there's a built-up backlog. So I see it running out quicker than June this year. So if they run out the first week of April, then we're looking at a random lottery. So you got to get them in on April 1st. Okay, start, as Mr. Romandini said, start preparing now. Should have started a few weeks ago, but now is better late than never.
You probably heard the scenario that R Ziegler presented in the morning. You know how in today's world hiring is as important, or becoming increasingly important for you to have successful integration strategies all through the year. Run up at the cap, you're going to have to figure out how you're going to hire, who's going to hire, and can you hire people who already have an H1B, can you hire OPTs, can you hire in India, can you hire in the US? Because, they're going to run out of H1Bs in the first month or two at the latest, and what you're going to do for the next 10 months. So alternative scenarios. So Dr. Ziegler, can you help everyone here to YMS people and stack them with H1Bs all the year?
Well, the primary advantage of YMS people is that it has a presence both in India and in the United States. If you're hiring marketing personnel, you're going to want to use somebody in the United States who understands the United States. Could be a foreign national who is very envisioned to the U.S. culture, but it could very well be an American citizen, and probably should be for marketing. For other technical support, you may need somebody who is an Indian citizen who helped develop the system or the product that you are selling, and you want to bring that person into the United States. If you anticipate that you're going to be growing, it's important that you not only add bodies, but that you add bodies to your company that will be able to perform the duties that you will need in the future as you grow. So, let's say that it's September. That's a good time to start hiring personnel or looking for people who you will want to bring on as an H1B in the United States. When you're looking to add new bodies in the United States, you want to plan early to bring on somebody who can move to the United States on L1. You don't want to run up against the fact that the person hasn't been in your employ long enough to qualify for L1. So make sure that you are developing the talent early, prior to when you're going to need to make those critical strategic transfers.
When we export our services to US, are there any tax implications and legal implications?
When you say export,
Or it can only be a generation of invoice and they transfer, whoever we are giving services to, they can transfer the invoice amount to India entity account.
yeah, suppose you're doing a B2B and you don't have an office for it.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's just a business transaction. The US company will have to look into their own, profit and loss on the tax assessments. However, for your business perspective, you're strictly doing business with another business entity. And that is the same applies for many companies who open their own affiliates or their own subsidiaries in the United States.
Any service tax or TDS implications in such scenario?
That's a good question for your auditor in India. Yeah, because you want to ensure, see, that's true for US too. You always want to ensure that the person who is preparing your tax returns is aware of what you are deducting and what you're not deducting. The same in the US, the CPA needs to be aware of what you are paying and how you are paying. However, the general transaction, as long as you keep it at arm's length, is raising an invoice and you billing the other company for the services, and you're getting reimbursed or you're getting paid for your services. Common phenomenon.
Are there any IT issues in that?
I mean, why would there be any IT issues? You're talking intellectual property issues?
That's right.
I mean, IT related to in what respect?
The service that we are providing, or a product, a software product that we may be shipping.
I mean, you're not talking a totally different area where if there are any restrictions. So that is the product or service on the list of restrictions is what you're talking. As long as that's totally a different area. You know, if you're selling fossil fuels, maybe no one will have to check on that. That's a different area. One is how do you invoice, how do you raise invoices, how do you get paid. The other one is the product or service on a restricted list of items that US has put up, and how would you deal with getting a clearance on it. Next, over there.
Hi. I wanted to ask if a person has done his master's program from US and he has left the country while he was in the OPT period, and it's been like 5 years down the line, is he eligible for the H1B general quota or the master's quota still?
Has the person ever held a H1B status previously?
No.
So why do you think the person will be eligible for H1B?
No, I mean to say I believe there are two types of quotas, like one is the general quota and one is the master's quota available for people who have done the master's degree from US. So would he be eligible for the master's quota even if he applies this time after the 5 years?
Okay, so what you're saying is the person completed Masters in the US, came back to India and it's been 5 years.
Right.
And can he file another Masters for that? Right.
He's never filed for an H-1B yet.
Right.
Ever? Okay. The only requirement to file under the master's quota is that you have a master's degree from a U.S. university. Doesn't say when you got the degree. Just need to have one. Secondly, the question that we had initially when the master's quota was added to the other quota was, does the H-1B job being offered as the basis for the H-1B visa, does the job need to be at a level that requires a minimum of a master's degree in those cases? The answer is no. You just have to have a relevant master's degree in a relevant field from a U.S. university. That's all you need. And I might add, if you have a master's from a U.S. university, you have the benefit of qualifying for either the 20,000 quota or the 65,000 quota. If the 20,000 quota runs out first, then you get thrown into the regular quota. If the regular quota runs out first, you still have a shot at the 20,000 quota. So you have an 85,000 chances of getting an H-1B, not 65. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay. ways to establish a company in the US, get our existing products and curriculum compatible, appliances required. So when we initially take up a company, the first thing is to analyze, where do we go and do you really need to an office, and if you do you need to staff people, and if you do, what are the various compliances required, and do you require any certifications, and are there any state certifications required? So so based on where you're going to register the company in the US, it's all regulated by state. So each state has a different regulation. So when we really get to know a little bit more about where and how, then the certifications and approvals can also be addressed. Based on our past experiences of sending 3 employees on L1, the process for each takes about 8 to 9 months. Is there a way in which the L1 process can be expedited and reduced to 2 to 3 months? Well, we really like to know why it's taking 8 to 9 months. Generally, if the Joy is working on an L1, you give the documents in a week, it's prepared and filed. And we do a regular process, it takes a few weeks. And you do a premium process, it takes a couple of weeks. So 2 to 3 months sounds reasonable. So unless we know why, how this 8 to 9 months, gets added, how this 8 to 9 months came up, it's hard to address, but 2 to 3 months is very reasonable. We have a question for you. When we started working on building this program, we wanted to do a whole day program to cover multiple topics so that, if you're a business person, entrepreneur, or an HR professional, immigration professional, you get to know a whole lot more than just one topic. Because we've got a comprehensive understanding would help, the individual or the business owner to be successful, or a whole lot more successful than just a narrow topic. So we built all the topics that we presented today we thought would make sense. We want you to tell us if we had too many topics, too few topics, we missed any, or maybe next time we should remove some, we should add some. Can you bluntly give us some suggestions on that about the topics we presented today?
Yeah.
Please. Go ahead.
I suggest that you should include the geography, weather, what are the Indian populations around, the quality of life. You will find many Indians in San Jose or Silicon Valley or Los Angeles, and people cluster around there. I have so many relatives gone to some places like Arizona, they come back and they are not happy. So you can include some area specific, geography specific.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate the feedback. Any other comments? Okay, go ahead. Say it.
We can include the opportunities available in the US and also talk about approaching penetration in the US market.
Okay.
Maybe selected domains or across.
Okay. On the sales front and the marketing front. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
I would like to quickly add specifically to the legal perspective. Like in certain states out in the US, let's say Oklahoma, where we have punitive damages in case there is a business house, no matter if there is litigation, whether directly or indirectly involved, you are tied up as per the state law. So, in case this can be included in which specific states would be a better place where we can do business. So that would be better. I think that would add a better perspective to what's already been said. The rest of the material what's been said, as you were enumerating, that you have covered everything of some parts specifically like legal, taxation, etc. So, as an audience from my end, I think this greatly helped me, and thank you for
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Please.
First of all, I just want to say that it's a really good session, but if we can add maybe a session from taxation impact on the businesses from the US side. We've been able to hear something regulatory from KPMG guy, but probably from the US side, if I want to set up a subsidiary, what are the taxation I'm looking up front and what are the compliance I want from the regulatory perspective? It can be greatly help because that's the first thing anybody wants to do to set up a business in the US. Most of the time we are aware from the Indian perspective, not from the US.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I have a related question. In the former part of the session, when we were talking about when an Indian entity wants to go to the US, they could either set up a branch or a subsidiary. In that case, you had suggested that a subsidiary is a better option because the liability is restricted to the US. Whereas when Hemant spoke, he said that a branch office is better because in that case, he gave an explanation that, from the tax angle, that in terms of accounting, it's easier. So, when I'm advising, what should I be saying? I'm a lawyer practicing in India, so how should I advise my client in terms of if they want to start, if they want to go abroad, should I suggest a subsidiary or should I suggest like a branch office?
Very good question. So let's say Mr. Joy is in your shoes in the US and the same question comes up. And let's say he's seriously working hard after 36 years and he doesn't want to lose his license. And this is what he would advise. He would tell him first to get his tax documents. He will give it to the CPA, and the CPA would review, and the CPA would send us a guidance, and then we will present it to the client. Because what we present here is our views based on our observations in some scenarios, and no one is right and no one is wrong. When a client comes to us, what we generally do is the documents have to be taken up. Mr. Joy is advising, he would not advise you without looking at a document. And the same, if it is related to tax matter, we would generally want in the US a CPA look at it. For example, the booklet that you have, it has a couple of chapters, I believe, on tax matters. It was reviewed by no less than 3 of our tax experts, all in the CPA, US CPA, International Tax CPA, and one more advisor. So, when we are ready to advise, which means it's being reviewed by a CPA, and then, as a client, you would go back and tell them, what, comprehensively, this is what it is, and on the structure, this is what it is. So that way, you're covered, because you've done it, because, that's the advice that you're merging into the overall solution. Yeah. Because blanket solution is what we say will get anyone into trouble. Yeah. Well, now we're getting close to our final part here. We wish to thank the organizations such as IACC and in fact IDLB to be here with us because they're very supportive. We were able to do programs like this just because, associations really believe in, what we can do to their members. And that's why we're able to come here and have a sellout crowd. As always, Mumbai has been a great crowd. We're doing this in 6 cities. It's a sellout in every city. And we wish to thank associations like Time Mumbai, IWMA, INCC, FIO, everyone who supported us for our cause and the reason why we are here. So thank you.